Hello and welcome to the Naked Truth About podcast. I am Danielle Hellebrand, executive coach, keynote speaker and columnist at Better Brains at Work.
And I'm Beverley Wilson-Wunsch, professor at the Department of Tourism, Hospitality and Events Management at IU International University in Germany.
We often talk about the need for real and honest conversations about work and life in a community whose members invite, encourage and inspire each other because people need people. And today we have the opportunity to talk to another wonderful guest. We have Katrijn Tack with us today, who is joining us from Belgium.
Hi Danielle, hi Beverley.
Hello, Katrijn. Welcome. What a wonderful opportunity it is to have you here with us. It's been a long time, right?
It is, and I'm pretty excited as well, pretty honored to be here as well. So yeah, looking forward.
Wonderful. Katrijn, you studied transpersonal psychology. We have to dive into that later. You were certified hypnotherapist and you do a lot, and I mean really a lot with young people. You work at JAR Vlaanderen in Belgium, where JAR stands for Youth at Risk. You organized heaps of things for the Happiness at Work conference in Antwerp last June. And you work as an empowerment trainer and MapsTel guide for the Game Changers community. So we'll have a lot to talk about. So I would say, let's just dive in.
I agree indeed. Katrijn, you sound like you're a jack of all trades. I'm sure you have mastered a couple of these trades. So let's talk a little bit about this. Can you tell us some more about transpersonal psychology and what fascinates you about that?
Well, where do I have to start with that one? I think with the beginning where my journey started, and that was actually very coincidentally with a book of Dan Brown, The Bernini Mystery. And it was one of my first books that I've read about, more the mystical, philosophical, spiritual part of life. And it got me so hard that I started looking for schools and universities that were offering a more broader perspective or view on life, some studies that were close to that. And that's where I found the Academie voor Geesteswetenschappen. It's in Utrecht, in the Netherlands. And they offered to study transpersonal psychology, where I felt a real connection to. It's one of the streams within psychology, just like you have the positive psychology, the clinical, all these types. There is the transpersonal psychology, which is more looking at the philosophical part and side, and also more at the religious, spiritual part. So actually, it focuses on guiding, supporting, counseling people that went through a spiritual or religious experience and making the difference with the real psychosis, psychological things. So,
Oh, very, very interesting. You know, I didn't
indeed.
even heard of that. Katrijn, is there something kind of we should all know about the combination of philosophy, spirituality, and psychology? What is something our listeners or we all can benefit from the knowledge you have from the study you did?
that one coming.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Maybe Katrijn, take it in pieces, and I'm sure you'll get that.
So more to the connection part, or what makes it special or unique, this one. I think it's mostly because we start indeed with the philosophical part, and that's where psychology actually started. That's where the roots are lying from psychology and all the things that we know right now. And I think that's something in just the mainstream psychology that we forget, the philosophical part as well, the human part. That's something I like as well, and what I think is making the study unique and which can benefit us all directly as well. In the transpersonal psychology, we don't look or use or go from the DSM-5 model, the basic psychological model, But we come from the humanness, from the human, from the person, from the persona. And I think that's something we often forget in life, to come from that place, from ourselves, from deep in us, where we come from, what we did, what shaped us, what made us who we are today, instead of looking at the results and the illnesses and the things that are wrong. Like, who is healthy? I mean, what's healthy? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I get that when I started also to study the Department of more clinical psychology, there was a certain point I thought, oh boy, I just don't want to dive only into diseases and illnesses and what is going wrong, quote unquote, with people. I mean, oh man, how can we, what can I do, or what can we do, to look at the more holistic, have a more holistic view on all of us people, because it's not just me, it's my environment. It's always about the gene, it's in a context. So, oh yeah, that sounds great. That sounds interesting, Katrijn.
I loved
Very much
it.
so.
Like, I was just, I was in love with my study. And I think that's also where my whole journey actually started. What you're all saying, what I'm doing, and who I am right now. Yeah, it started there for me at that point, and it opened up my world, my perspective, how I think and how I see the world right now. So, yeah, it has a major impact. It is.
And Katrijn, you work a lot with youngsters. Maybe we can talk a little bit about your work at YAR, Youth at Risk. Is there something you think that we should know about your work specifically, and how your studies have actually helped you to be able to be more successful at what you do?
Yeah, these are again two different questions, so I will answer them separately. Um, because how my study benefited my work and who I am, I think that's as well the starting point. Because the transpersonal study, it made me go into introspection and look at myself. It was a whole self-reflection study, actually, how you are standing in your own life. So that, of course, shaped me, how I am and how I look at things right now. Yeah, it was Corona times, so things got shifted. And of course, always things happen like that in life. It's always the little signs, the little dots that you see everywhere separately, and at some point they start to connect. At some point you hear a story of a friend looking at YAR, Youth at Risk. Then a week later you hear somebody else talking about their experience with YAR, somebody totally different. Then you see at the TV some commercials. So it's like all these little things came together, and I went to their website, saw an application for still a job in my region, which was very coincidentally, of course, as they only have a fixed team of 12, 15 people actually. So it's a very small team. And yeah, I just applied because it spoke to me. It's Youth at Risk. It's a program which is offering actually a coaching program, which is offered to young, vulnerable youngsters between 15 and 18 years old. Free. It's supported by the government, which is, I think, a very important thing, that the government and that people, sponsors, of course, also support this and make this accessible to youngsters who don't have access normally to care, which they all should.
Okay, Katrijn, I'm really sorry, just a bit of a follow-up question here, because this seemed to be so burning at the moment as I listen to you in my head. The question of, is there something that you think that we're doing in society or not doing, which is putting youngsters more at risks? Why there is the need for your job, for example? Would you say in today's world, the youths are more in danger than they were before? Or would you say that it's the fault of what we are doing as human beings?
Oh, it's a wonderful question. Like really, it hit me. Yes, I do think that society and we as people, as human beings, have a part to do in that. That we put indeed youngsters more at risk at the moment. For me, in my opinion, of course, because it's not a truth, it's just my truth. I see this actually more in the school system lying. There is so much pressure on these youngsters today, so much
Oh, yeah.
choices that they can make as well. Recently, it's just such a stupid movie, but it hits rock bottom. Teachers are only allowed to give 2 or 3 classes because they cannot give more subjects than that, and youngsters are obliged to learn all of these things. Like, actually, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense how our school system is built right now. To me, it doesn't make sense. I think youngsters are just overstimulated with everything that's going on and all the things that society wants to actually lie on them. You have to be good at math, and you need to do this, and you have to be good at that as well. And you need to graduate at 18 and then go study or find a job. And it's so much pressure instead of just letting these youngsters experience, discover who they are. Like, I went to school, you graduate from high school, and it's not that you have the skills to apply for a job. You don't know how to make yourself happy or how to control your happiness, your mental well-being, which is actually one of the most spoken topics today. So these are the fundamental things of life. How to live your life happy and fulfilled and
Wow.
being able to
Yeah.
apply for a job. And yeah. So yeah, I think indeed we put them more at risk.
I'm so with you, Katrijn, and even I sometimes feel that pressure. I see it with my son, and even I, when I'm too much on social media, I feel pressure. I also feel sometimes I have to be a good mother, a good friend, a good daughter to my parents, good at my job, da 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 da. So it is a lot. And as I heard you speak, I thought there is also this unconscious tendency of older generations to keep repeating dated social processes. Maybe we don't think enough about the fact that each new generation that enters a community, a work community, carries some kind of updates to the social processes that are aging. And collaboration between generations can produce continued social evolution by doing what generates the most energy with all generational members together. And Katrijn, what do you think we need in society and in the work environment to help future generations more? What can we do to kind of close that gap more?
Huh. Well, I think what we need is more compassion. That's I
Yeah.
think what we need. More
Hospitality?
compassion, hospitality, indeed, like more compassion, empathy, these things. But what we can do maybe actively to also reach that compassion is to work on ourselves and to go through that again ourselves, that phase. And as you're asking this question, I'm directly thinking about the training that I just gave a few days ago, the firewalk training for the psychological care unit. When I was asking for feedback to these people, one of them said, actually, like, you were asking us to dance in the training, it made us so feel uncomfortable and like we didn't want to do this, and actually it's just a stupid thing, we like just a little dance, you make us feel so uncomfortable with this. We are already feeling uncomfortable with just putting up a dance and doing this stuff. What the hell are we asking from these vulnerable youngsters? To put themselves up vulnerable and to get out of their comfort zone and to do all these things, even in the psychological care unit. So it was a real reflection for them, like how hard it actually is to always get out of that comfort zone, to open up yourself, to get out of that safe space, to create something new. So what I think we can do is indeed to keep working on ourselves, to keep putting us ourselves in that uncomfortable situation where we grow, where we learn, where we can, yeah, change, start transforming again and over again and again. Because I think that's also for me the clue of life. Like, if you don't learn anything new, so.
But I also think we can look more at opportunities. I mean, never before have there been so many professionals with such much work and life experience in organizations. And when we healthily mix all that experience of all the generations with the freshness and the evolutionary value of younger generation, I mean, everyone can benefit, the world benefits. But I also think, hearing you speak, that I also think all generations also share important values such as being healthy, being honest, craftsmanship, self-esteem. And I think at each stage in life, a generation has a different function in society. For me, it was different in my youth than now at a more seasoned phase. What are your thoughts on all that, Beverley? The mixing of all our knowledge from young people, more seasoned people, thinking the future together, because future is not a place we go to, it's something we create together. And we are now at a very important point in our society where we have to create a better future together.
I agree with you wholly there, Daniela, that indeed, if we don't sort of in some way find a sort of synchronization of the different generations, then we are not going to be able to do this at all. So we need to start to look at ways that we can come together and create, be it knowledge, be it innovation, be it skills. We need to start working to each other, each one teaching, or each generation teaching another generation, in order to be able to make life on this earth somewhat comfortable and have some sort of future. Because in the end, we are actually doomed if we don't see that we have to start really working with each other in order to get to that goal. It is interesting, Katrijn, because I also noticed that you have a little bit of your roots in hospitality, and you alluded to that earlier, but I'd like to bring you back a little bit to that and ask the question is, why do you think that the hospitality mindset is so important? Why is it so important to you?
Well, to me, I think that if everybody would work at least a year or have some experience in the hospitality industry, the world would look a bit happier, I think. Because in the hospitality industry, for me, it was all about serving, not pleasing. A big difference to me, pleasing or serving. So I was of service of people, and I think that's as well something that we should carry in society a bit more. That's as well what's, to me, closing a bit the gap, and actually what you're saying here as well, closing this, bringing the youngsters together with the seasoned and like mixing up the experiences. I think that comes also from serving each other and helping each other grow, actually making each other feel at home, feel comfortable, feel at ease. And yeah, to me that really meant a lot. It contributed to my mindset as well of serving people, making them feel at home. And I think everybody deserves and has a right to the feeling of home.
And I think that hospitality mindset, we spoke about that a lot, Beverley. I think it does not only serve in your professional life, but also in your private life. To give you an example, we had to bring my mom to a home for elderly people 3 months ago. We've been there almost every day, and yesterday my brother and I had a talk with the staff. And we have to look for, this is a transition home, she has to go to another home. And at a certain point they said, oh, well, I think we're all going to miss you. So my mother and all of us, my family, because you're also always so nice. You're always helpful when you're here. You thank us for everything we do. And then my brother said, well, that's all we do. That is not much. But when we drove home, I thought, no, it is this hospitality mindset. We see you, dear staff. We recognize what you are all doing to those elderly people with dementia. we see you every day. We thank you every day for all your work you do. And if there is a spare moment, we help, we do the things. And I thought, this basic, yeah, we call it the hospitality mindset, is being of service, that's seeing the other person. It's so simple, quote unquote,
Yeah,
but does so much good to the other person. Don't you
exactly.
think?
That's a
That's why you started your hospitality journey too, Beverly, didn't you?
That's right. That's right. I think you get the perfect example where you going into that nursing home does not necessarily mean that you're only there for your mother and your mother only, but automatically you go in there and you realize there is a need for care for everyone there. There's a bit of sharing, and whatever you bring can actually lighten and brighten up the spirits of those nurses, for example, that are in there giving their all 24 hours. It's always a beautiful thing to say thank you, not only on behalf of your mother, but also on behalf of all the other older people that are there whose relatives probably have forgotten at some point to say thank you to the nurses and thank you to the helpers because they do so much. And that's really what we're talking about. Just being able to give back, just being able to care, and to say it loud that, listen, you're doing a wonderful job and we thank you. And thank you is just so important in today's world. And that is something we have to keep doing all the time, every day. We can't get tired of doing that.
Exactly, Beverly. And Katrijn, I mean, you, Beverly, I, Julian, Pascal, all the people who are already on the podcast and yet to come, we're all part of a big community. And we live and breathe this hospitality mindset. And when you're in a community who live that, it's I think it's in all our DNA. When I come into a surroundings, a couple of weeks ago, I traveled with Stefan, with my partner, and we were in a hotel, and then I'm confused. I think, how on earth is it possible that people don't live that mindset? Being of service, being nice, being just loving from the heart. So being maybe a little bit spoiled through our community, when I don't encounter that, I'm kind of a little bit shocked. I think, really, what? Why? Why? So that is also what I love very much about our community, that we live and breathe that for the people around us, but also in our community, helping each other and being of service for each other, whoever needs something from us.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's a very good thing that you're pointing out there. Like, why is it that some people are not living this? Like, how is it possible? Indeed, when you are in this hospitality industry mindset, when you have this and live this, indeed you see all these things in a hotel, restaurants, like you're looking for it or you just see it. And I get what you're saying. Like, how is it possible that people are not living this? I think it's very simple, because they see this as a job instead of a passion, like you say it. And afterwards, like, some people are living it, some people are hospitality and are just they have this being of this mindset instead of taking on a job. And I think that's what it's all about as well. Like, if you can reach that, which makes me a very happy person, because I don't see what I'm doing as a job. I see this as my being, as who I am. And I think, yeah, that's what I'm bringing to my job.
But Beverly, you also, I mean, your hospitality journey started at a young age, and it's still your passion. It's also your profession, but still your passion. You always stayed on that path, the
Oh,
hospitality
yes.
path.
Oh, yes. It's always beautiful to connect. Try to connect on a daily basis. And that's the key word there, connecting with people. Not forgetting to let people know that there is much more to life than the everyday practice, the hard work, getting up and doing the 9 to 5, having to do the things that stresses us just to bring home the bread, to put the food on the table,
Yeah.
but basically is to focus a little bit more on that little part that truly is, in the end, what we makes us happy. And that's connected, and in helping people, reminding people that life without a day of actually saying a kind word to someone is actually useless, I think. If you have not stopped long enough to connect with people, to say a good word, you realize you go home feeling lonely. And it's not a good night's sleep when you have not been able to connect, in all honesty. And that's the way I feel.
That's true, Beverly, that's true. Talking about truth, Katrijn, what the podcast is called The Naked Truth About. What is a truth you can bring to the table today that not much people know about you? Or sometimes get wrong about you? Is there something?
Wow, I have to think about that. I'm a pretty open book if you ask me, actually, at least for the people I'm surrounded with. Well, I do have to start recognizing that when you ask them the second question, what do people sometimes think or say about you that maybe is not true or that doesn't fit? Well, always when I connect with new people, they have this very fragile image of me. Like I'm this very small, young, cute little girl. Like, oh, I will not be too hard on her. Like, what if she's breaking, you know? Like, what if I touch her and she's falling apart? This is like this image that people have of me. When I stand in my power, when I really like do what I'm doing, what I live for, when I'm giving trainings, when I'm doing my project management, when I'm doing my coaching with my youngsters, I stand in my power, I stand in who I am. And I am not that fragile little small girl that people might think. And it's still something for me to also acknowledge. That's maybe, again, a bit the truth thing then. What do people not know about you? Like, yeah, I have a really hard time with acknowledging what I can do, what I can bring to the table and where I can make a difference. I have a really, really hard time with that, and mostly because of my young age, I think. I'm surrounded in a world with professionals like, you know, Beverley, Danielle, you have all this experience. You're so, you have this experience, you have this footprint to leave, this mark to leave, and that's something I'm still struggling with, to acknowledge that I also have that. Everybody has it. Yeah.
And I can tell you, even at my seasoned age, more often than I want, I have that I think, "Oh, maybe people find out that I don't know that much." And then I have to
That's
remind
right.
myself, no, come on, look back what you've done. You know, sometimes I also don't acknowledge enough the things I have done already. And,
Yeah.
you know, and for example, I had to start over a few times in life. The last time when I was 50, I thought, oh boy, I have to start all over again. But it wasn't starting from scratch, it was starting from experience. I had 50 years of experience in my backpack. And then I gained power from that. I thought, come on, you survived so much in your life. It's still at a little bit seasoned age. I sometimes have to remind myself and talk to myself. And so, no, nothing is from scratch. You start from experience and are going to build further from that.
That's
Don't you,
right.
Beverly, sometimes think?
That's right. Oh yes, Katrijn, and I agree with you 100% that you're moving from stage to stage, from strength to strength, and from power to power, and the world out there is going to know that you are unshakable. And there is so much to learn from you. There is just absolutely so much that I have already learned from you, Katrijn. So you're on the right path, and I encourage you to stay there. And we're in this with you.
Katrijn,
Thank
what
you.
drives you? What drives you to do all those things you do? Because you do so much. Where is the fire? Where does it come from?
To let no talent and passion get lost. I think that's something that is getting lost so much so often, mostly with the youngsters, like where we started from, the conditioning, the pressure, all these things, and people are not living their passion. And I think that's such a shame. This is really why I'm waking up every day, where I want to contribute, and mostly to contribute that and to bring that as well to the school system. this is really my life work to make maybe that small, not maybe, one day, to make that small change in the school system where mental health, all these things, empowerment, personal development, communication, behavior, where all these things are included, which I think will benefit to no passion, talent, dreams getting lost.
I would actually add to that also to Daniela. If you had to give us, the seasoned ones, you might say, an advice about how should we work best with youths or people of younger generation, what would be your advice? Because you're in the thick of things every day, Katrijn. You're doing, every day you get up, you're working with younger people. And we do a lot of that, but sometimes we sort of forget that these are still young people and they need to get out of their comfort zone more often than not. And because we are sort of in our mindset that you sort of just snap your finger and things are done, and it's only because we're a little bit more seasoned, we'd rather ask you, what should we do to not forget that younger generations don't always know how? What can we do to impart that knowledge and skill on a daily basis to them? What can we do best to help the younger generation?
Well, then I come back to the sentence that you said, that we often forget that these are youngsters. And to me, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, that comes over that you're coming from a place like, oh, we have to take care of these youngsters. They are younger. We have to handle and take care of them in a certain way. And that's, I think, that we have to change around. Why not asking the questions and think about or not forget who we are, who we were as youngsters as well, and start treating them actually as people as well. I think I've heard my coach and trainer from the youth program, the YAG, Youth at Risk, always say when people are asking me what I'm doing as a job, I'm not working with youngsters. I'm working with people. Because we all have the same fears. We all have the same voice in our head telling us we can't do it, we're not good enough, we're not loved, we're not wanted. I think that when we start coming from a place of empowerment, of seeing the potential of these youngsters, of seeing the humanness of these youngsters instead of the brokenness, the vulnerability, the things that are broken. That we just come from that place of, no, you're not broken. You don't have to be fixed. You're human and we're going to do this together. You need support, yeah, but you don't need help. Help is when you're taking over. And I think we should come more from a place of support and empowerment instead of looking at youngsters as vulnerable, breakable.
Interesting. Very, very profound.
Beautiful, 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 I think, kind of closing remarks, dear Katrijn. We want to thank you so much for being on our podcast. We invite you to join us as we explore our own and other people's life and work stories. We will still talk to a variety of people with all kinds of backgrounds, and we have a lot of knowledge to share. So let us learn out loud together and explore how we can better interact with each other in our private lives and in our work life. So let's keep on nurturing our souls. Thank you all for listening. Have a good week and be kind. The world needs a hospitality mindset.
And that is the naked truth.